Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. In one of his stories, Walter Wangerin Jr. told of the time in his childhood when he became aware that the other members of his church talked a lot about seeing Jesus. In his childhood mind, this caused him a great deal of consternation because he wanted to see Jesus too. He began looking everywhere around the church, storage rooms, behind the altar, anywhere it seemed like Jesus might be hiding. Finally, one day, in his desperation to see Jesus, he birthed an idea. There was one place in the church he had never ventured, and this must be the place where Jesus was. And so the next Sunday, he ventured into the women's restroom. Well, Jesus wasn't there, and his story goes on to larger and grander points. For today, however, I want to stop right there because this part of the story might suggest to us that it is important for us to look for Jesus in our lives as well. We might not go to the same lengths as the childhood Wangerin did, but it is important to us to find Jesus dwelling with and among us. This intense hunger to see Jesus abides deep within us as we search for Jesus abiding with us. This week we are looking at some of the women who are named in the Gospels. There are certainly the big three: Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Mary Magdalene. But we are looking beyond those three to the other women mentioned by name in the Gospel story. Yesterday we looked at 4 women who were named in Matthew's genealogy, and we talked about how their heritage spoke to who Jesus was and to whom Jesus was sent. Today we want to move to comment about Anna, the prophetess. You'll find Anna's story in the 3rd chapter of Luke, and Luke describes her as a very old woman who was in the temple every day looking for the Messiah to come. She stands in some ways as a counterpoint to Simeon, who was also old and who had been promised that he would not die until he had seen the Messiah. Simeon and Anna spent every day in the temple, and Luke describes Anna in particular as being in constant prayer and fasting. Again, Luke describes her as a very old woman, and there is some debate about what Luke means by that description. Some read the Bible text to mean that Anna was 84 years old when Jesus arrived as a baby at the temple. Others read it to mean that she had been married for 7 years when her husband died, and then she had lived as a widow for 84 years after that. If the second one is true, and we presume that she got married at about age 14, which was typical then, that would put Anna's age at 105. Which is it? We don't know. What we do know is that Anna was in the temple every day fasting and praying. In fact, you know that the Jewish people had all sorts of rules about being spiritually clean. Anna, living as a widow, avoided marital relations or having children, both of which would have rendered her unclean. In living as a widow, she was kept as pure as possible as she spent her time in the temple praying and praising God and looking for the Messiah. Luke tells us that once she saw the baby Jesus, she spoke to everyone about him, just like we are supposed to do. Oh, there's one more thing. Luke tells us that Anna was from the tribe of Asher. You may remember that when they finally entered the Promised Land, each tribe of Israel was given a particular area of the land for their own. Then that area was divided up among the families of that tribe. Asher was given land in the far north above the Sea of Galilee, far away from Jerusalem. So it would have been very unusual for someone from this rural area to be found in cosmopolitan Jerusalem, far from family. There even seems to be some hints that Asher was so remote from Jerusalem that it was hardly involved with the rest of the nation at all. So what does this have to do with Anna and seeing Jesus? Well, some say that her connection to the tribe of Asher is one more indication that Jesus came for everyone. Jesus didn't come just for those who were actively religious and involved in the religious life of Israel. Rather, Jesus came for Jews, for Gentiles, and even those on the fringes of society. Anna proclaims Jesus to all she sees. But to Anna, Jesus proclaims grace and inclusion. So maybe as we, like Anna, look for Jesus, we will find that Jesus even more seeks us. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.